Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Event Against Type podcast. I'm your host, Zach.
What? I'm Leah Kate.
My friends wanted me to try being more energetic, so I just thought I would just start off on that and see how it went.
That was great.
Thanks. Okay. So how you doing, Leah Kate?
I'm good.
Since the last time I saw you.
Yep. Which is every day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good. It's been a while. I don't think it's only been about 4 or 5 months since we've done this.
I mean, since the last technical episode, it's been probably
6 months?
No longer, because we did
Halloween.
If you go back and listen to the Addams Family quiz video, at the very beginning I say, welcome to Against Type episode 3, when I ended up actually cutting those videos into just videos. I decided not to do them as a podcast, so that's not technically the third episode. This is the third episode.
Oh wow. Huh.
Yeah, so if you go back and hear that, that is false. Those are just videos.
So the second episode was May?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was May, so it's almost been a year.
So we're talking about movies that have the theme of loneliness or deal with loneliness in some capacity. Let's see. Now, here's my next question. Do you want to just go through the list of movies that we have and just talk about them in general? Or would you rather... there's 3 different ways we could do this.
Mm-hmm.
Go through the list. We could go through the list and this other thing that I'm going to suggest. Or we could just talk about the best ones that we have on our list and then go into a little guessing game that I have here at the end.
Wait, was that 2 options? You said there was a third.
Yeah, there's really only 2.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm not sure why I was giving these options anyway. I didn't want to make this too long, so
yeah.
I wasn't sure if we wanted to go through every single one of these.
What's your guessing game?
So, basically, I was looking up lists of movies that dealt with loneliness, and I found several that I've seen, but I have no idea what the theme, I wouldn't have thought of them as dealing with loneliness, and I wanted to see if we could try and guess why. Try and think it over and guess why did these movies pop up? So if you would want to do that.
Could we splice it, if that's the right word?
Splice it?
Yeah.
What is it? What?
Can we just do a little bit of both?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
All right. So what do you want to start with?
Sure. So the first one I have on my list is The Apartment, it's by Billy Wilder, I believe. And it's starring, Jack Lemmon and Shirley MacLaine. And yeah, that's the one about, in case you haven't seen it, it's about Jack Lemmon plays this guy who owns an apartment, and he lets it's like a 60s corporate environment that he works in, so he's trying to climb the corporate ladder. It's just one of those rooms where there's just a bunch of typewriters and it looks terrible, and so he works there and he's trying to climb the corporate ladder. And he's doing that by letting his bosses basically use his apartment to conduct affairs and take their girlfriends and stuff. And so I feel like this came up when I was looking at discussions about loneliness in film. I feel like it's kind of under the radar. It's not something you would immediately pick out about the movie, but it definitely has the tone of loneliness because he doesn't have many friends or connections. Mm-hmm. He does meet Shirley MacLaine, but she's just the elevator operator. So it's not she's not even immediately a friend. So he is just kind of alone. and he just, has all these people coming in and out of his apartment, and he's just trying to kind of climb up in life. So it is a very lonely tone to it. Did you feel that when you watched it? Because we watched it while we were in our lockdown last year.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't have thought of it at first, but in a sense, he is sort of like just on his own. Like, he's letting other people, go about their business and, do all the terrible things they want to do in his apartment and everything. And he's like, leasing it out and all that. But he's just sort of like a loner.
Mm-hmm. I feel like
he's sort of just like sticking to himself. Like, he's letting everybody else kind of like do whatever they want, and then he's just going to his job. And he doesn't really like. I guess the fact that he's even letting all these people use his apartment kind of shows what little he has going on.
Yeah, because he's just living by himself. And then, spoiler.
We can just assume that all of these are going to be spoilers.
Yeah, okay.
Let's just
spoiler alert right now.
If you don't want to know anything about the movies that we mentioned, just skip past them.
Should we tell people to just turn off our podcast if they don't want spoilers?
Well, no, they can choose.
Okay.
They can choose whichever ones they want to skip.
Okay.
I'll put a time code. I mean, I say that now. I don't even know if I know how to put a time code in, but I'll try to put a time code in for the movie so you can skip if you want.
Okay. But what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. Toward, at the end, he does get, like, the corner office that he wants. And then I think Shirley MacLaine finds another guy. And then he does realize, I guess, kind of like the fulfillment of his loneliness, or like the fulfillment of his, dreams is kind of realized. And then it doesn't satisfy him. So then it's kind of fulfilled the theme of loneliness in it, because he does, end up with Shirley MacLaine.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of interesting.
Yep.
You want to do one of yours?
Sure. I don't know if I want to like build up to my biggest one or not. I don't know if you had any order that you were doing it in, or if you were just...
I mean, the apartment was at the top of my list. I don't know. I'm just kind of doing it off the cuff.
Okay. I'll just start. So this was the biggest one that came to mind, and this is probably the one that I could talk the most about on the list. But it immediately came to mind when we decided to talk about loneliness, is I Am Legend.
Mm-hmm. That's very lonely.
Mm-hmm. So I Am Legend is basically about the last man, maybe not on Earth, but at least in New York, after a massive virus, relevant, has wiped out most of the population of the Earth, and turned the remaining population into these like vampire zombie type things.
Mm-hmm.
And he's essentially one of the only people who is immune to the virus, and also happens to be a like military scientist who was searching for a cure for it. So he is just left in New York by himself with his dog, just living out his days like that. So that was the interesting, or the cool thing about the movie, or the interesting thing about it, was just sort of how it portrayed his day-to-day, being completely by himself.
Mm-hmm.
For one, his only companionship was his dog.
Yeah, and that's a very big turning point.
Yeah, so he has this dog that essentially was a puppy whenever his family was, again, spoilers for all these movies, but back at the beginning of the apocalypse or the outbreak, his family was killed, and he was left with this dog who is now his only companion in the city. So basically the only thing that is driving him at this point in the movie is the dog and his mission.
Mm-hmm.
And when he loses one of those, you kind of see like his breakdown after that, which again was like one of the things, I hate to say, like my favorite thing about his performance was like how was like the sad parts, but I mean,
It's the most moving parts.
yeah, like he gets to the point to where like he gets to the point to where he's lost. I don't know if this is after he's lost his dog. I think that's what it is. Yeah. So he basically, I'm jumping all over the place with this movie, but anyway, so yeah, he's basically has set up like these mannequins all over the city and everything like that, because there's no people, obviously. And he has this routine that he goes through every day and every week, that to where he drives around and like he'll go to the video rental store, and back when there were video rental stores, and he'll like go in there as if he's like looking for a new movie or something like that, and he has all the mannequins set up in the store and he's talking to them and everything, and like they all have names, and he'll go like, you know, he'll go like house to house like searching for food and everything like that, but he has his routine that he goes through every day. Takes the dog with him, talks to the dog. So it's sort of an interesting look at like how someone in that situation would try and keep themselves sane, because you need that routine and you need that interaction with people that he just doesn't have. And at the one point in the movie to where he loses the dog, I think that's where he goes back to the video rental store and he just starts to break down, and he's just like begging one of the mannequins to talk to him. And like his dog, at least his dog was like the only living thing he had with him, and he would always talk to the dog and everything, but once that was gone, he would just he breaks down, and he basically even gives up on his overall mission of like searching for the cure and everything. And anyway, so yeah, that one is definitely up there when it comes to loneliness. I think it does like a great job of just like even just portraying like the emptiness of the city and just the feeling of isolation and everything like that.
Our need for other people,
Yeah.
which is I mean the definition of loneliness kind of. And then the movie's kind of resolved through his like sacrifice in the end.
Yeah.
So
that's one thing that I've seen like that a lot of people. I mean, and I guess I would agree with this, is that the movie sort of falls apart in the third act a little bit, because it sort of and I was just reading something before we started to where they were talking about it delves into, which I don't mind this part. I kind of like that it delves into religion a little bit, but the review that I was reading sort of pointed out that the movie doesn't deal with religion until the third act, and when he meets the mom and her kid and everything, and so it starts to go into this like, you know, like God's plan, and if
it's not something that you have from the beginning, it's kind of out of nowhere.
And he's like getting upset at her and getting upset, you know, like telling her there is no God because, you know, like all this stuff wouldn't be happening and all this stuff. And then it goes into like all this stuff has been happening for a reason, and which leads him to sort of become the, you know,
Christ
figure in the end, to like sacrifice himself. And anyway, so there's all that at the end, which is not, you know, not a terrible ending, but it just kind of comes out of nowhere.
I was just kind of thinking, after I started talking about the apartment, about how you can kind of look at all of these things and see how the experience of loneliness is, and then there's kind of the resolution in each of these. So in that one, it would be his ultimate sacrifice. But I think you could look at it like he's lonely, and then the loneliness is resolved. I wonder if we have any movies where the loneliness isn't resolved. Because
probably
the apartment, he gets what he wants, what he thinks will make him, you know, he's kind of sacrificed having, you know, he leads a pretty miserable life, and then he gets his corner office, and then he really just wants Shirley MacLaine. And then that one, he's lonely. They kind of give him inspiration to go on that he didn't have, which leads him to want to sacrifice. So yeah, I don't really have a broader point to make with that. It's just interesting to examine how the loneliness is resolved in the end in these things. So, did you have any more thoughts on that one, or should I?
No, I just think everybody should watch that one.
Yeah.
I think it flies under the radar. I mean, I think a lot of people have seen it, but at the same time, it doesn't really. I think because of the ending, it sort of like gets a bad rap sometimes, and I don't think it's a. And well, the ending and the creatures themselves are like kind of early 2000s CGI, and it was just kind of a poor decision. But anyway, that's apart from the theme. But anyway, everybody should watch it. Check it out.
Unless you're a 10-year-old.
Yeah, unless you were me and I just watched it and didn't really care. And yeah.
Well, yeah.
You weren't referring to me, were you?
No, I was referring to myself because you let me watch it. And then the crickets at night sounded like the screams of the creatures.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, I couldn't sleep. But, let's see if I can decide on my next one. So, The Apartment was the one that I watched the most recently, so I feel like I can speak to that one a little more in depth. But, another one on here, I think it's been a long time since both of us have seen it, but Gravity was another one.
I had that one on my list too.
You had that one on your list too? Well, we can just knock it out of the park right now.
Although I wasn't entirely sure how I was going to talk about it, so you
can
go ahead.
Yeah. So Gravity is the one. Gravity is stars Sandra Bullock and George Clooney. And they are astronauts who are, do you remember what they were doing?
The movie's they're just astronauts. They're repairing a satellite, and then this sort of freak accident happens and causes them to kills one of the astronauts, and then causes them to sort of like, they're basically just fighting for survival, like in space, like they're, trying not to float away, obviously, but they basically kind of get detached.
Off course.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to think of how to describe it. They're just working on the satellite, and then the satellite blows up, essentially. Like, I mean, that's all it is. Like, so it's essentially just about them.
She's basically knocked off course. Is she just floating in space, or?
Yeah, it's kind of a hard movie to describe because it doesn't really like.
There's not like clear plot points.
I mean, there are like it's all about like her. Again, it's all about her just trying to basically get back into communication with somebody, because essentially she just gets separated from everyone.
I think that's the loneliest movie.
Well, yeah,
you can't get much more lonely than having zero communication in space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're not doing a very good job of describing like the overall. It's essentially okay. Yeah, like there's a freak accident. She gets separated from everybody. She's trying to either get in contact with somebody and get back to Earth somehow. Like, essentially, she's. That's the kind of freaky thing about the movie, I guess, is like imagining like you're up there on your own, like you have no guarantee of getting back to something that can even get you back to Earth. And I think that's the freaky thing about it. Like, she's just kind of stuck up there in the wreckage of everything, and yeah, like she's just doing whatever she can to like even find a way to.
Well, and then she's not. I didn't know he directed that. Alfonso. I'm not going to try and say his last name. And then I immediately try to say it. Cuarón?
I don't know.
He did Roma. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, good director.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
Yeah. But yeah, she's not alone at first, and then she has George Clooney in there with her, and then he gets.
Yeah, he basically has to separate himself, which that's one of the things about that movie that doesn't make any sense. But
doesn't she hallucinate that he is?
So yeah, she basically, there's three of them. One of them gets killed. She and George Clooney are left. We said we were going to spoil these. She and George Clooney are left. He is essentially getting pulled away from her somehow. Like they're tethered to something, to either the satellite or to some ship or something like that, and he's getting pulled away from it. And if he doesn't release himself, then she'll get pulled with him. So he basically just releases himself from the tether and lets himself float away. Mm-hmm. And then she's just left on her own. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's definitely like a very, like, just the fact that she's by herself and has no guarantee of ever getting in communication with anybody ever again, or again, just like surviving in general. So
yeah, and it is let's see, was he? No, he was dead by that point. The Roger Ebert review of it, and this is something I was thinking about her hallucinating George Clooney. It is kind of like Castaway is another one that's talked about a lot. That wasn't on my list, but
I had that one. I can't really speak much about it because I can't remember a whole lot, but
yeah, that'll be a common theme. But
well, I just when we were talking about loneliness, I was like, what kind of movies are lonely? And it was like Castaway.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I was thinking about just, I mean, it's like I Am Legend. The only thing that's not explicitly, Jack Lemmon never draws a face on a volleyball in the apartment, but in Castaway, he has the famous volleyball, but
the famous volleyball
Wilson. But then, yeah, in Gravity, it's just her hallucinating George Clooney, and then in I Am Legend, he has his mannequins. So, yeah, it's just the same thing of like trying to survive through fabricating. Like, we need other people so badly that we will fabricate them through making up a person, or having a mannequin, through imagining someone's there.
That's a good point.
Yep.
You made a connection between all of these.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not only that, but...
Are you making fun of me?
No.
Okay.
Because I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that is a good point. Like, there is a
primal need.
That is in each of these that we've been talking about. Is like mm-hmm. making people up, or pretending that we're talking to inanimate objects or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I mean, even at like your basis level as a human, insanity, you can just, if you're so alone that it drives you crazy, you will. Yeah. Your brain is like.
Well, Sandra Bullock was also running out of oxygen when it happened, so it wasn't just entirely her, because she was really only alone for the movie. Only takes place over the course of like a few hours.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like, yeah, it's like a continuous.
But that can mess you up.
It can
quickly, being alone in space.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, I mean, it does. It is kind of like a continuous like series of actions. Like, I think there's only maybe one part where she might black out or something and wake up, kind of like 1917, mm-hmm. where that's like the only point in the movie where it interrupts. But
and then kind of the resolution in that one is she makes it back home, mm-hmm. and then it just kind of ends.
Yeah, I mean, we never actually see any other person. She just kind of makes it back to Earth, and
mm-hmm. that's it. But she does have that connection regained being back home. Mm-hmm. So. Yeah. All right. I had a point I was going to make, and then I forgot about it. It was really going to lead in a good direction. It was going to be very insightful. Anyway, do you want to talk about your next one?
Yeah, Shrek.
Oh, God. You know what I was doing? I was in your room looking at all the DVDs that you have.
So did I.
And I was trying to think of I'm making up stuff about all so many movies that I'm seeing here, and then I saw Shrek, and I was like, I don't know, it just crossed my mind if we chose Shrek.
I did the exact same thing. I looked over just my shelf of movies and was trying to make connections where there weren't any connections. But no, I think Shrek does deal with that. Because it sort of goes from him being completely on his own, like he kind of doesn't really know what he's missing. Like he loves being on his own and loves just, doing his thing, and then he sort of reluctantly is pulled out of that, and then once he, goes on his adventure and everything, and then has his little falling out with Donkey and everybody, and gets back to, the way things were.
Mm-hmm.
And actually the fourth movie deals with that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember much about Shrek Forever After, but
how could I forget? No, I don't.
The fourth movie deals with that as well. Like, he's sort of tired of his everyday, like, he's tired of his new
Domestic
family
life.
His new domestic life and everything. He's kind of like, man, I remember the good old days when it was just me.
Mm-hmm.
And so he gets his wish, and then exactly like the end of the first movie, he realizes, like, oh no, this is terrible. And anyway,
yeah.
So I don't know if there's much more to say about that, but
that one's resolved in just like a rollicking wedding music. Yeah, just like a music number.
If you're lonely, get hitched.
That's the message. No, what I was thinking of saying, not to just totally take us off track of talking about Shrek, but I guess I was thinking about the pandemic and like people being alone, and like that's why I've heard people discussing. You'll see a lot of just people that were speculating, like maybe once this is all over, movie theaters will be over, like this will be over, whatever. And then there was, I've heard other people just responding to it like, of course not. Like, people said that when the internet came out. People said that, when whatever. Mm-hmm. But the things that people miss the most are just being around other people in ways that you took for granted, like going to sports events and movie theaters and parties and weddings and things. So,
well, yeah, I mean, that's what people said about TV. Like, everybody's talking about, oh, everything's going to streaming. Like, nobody's ever going to want to go to a movie theater again. They said the exact same thing in the 30s when TV came out. Maybe it wasn't the 30s, but like,
it was more the 50s when it was popularized.
Yeah. So whenever TV really was like started coming into everybody's homes, they're like, oh, people are never going to have to go to the movies again. Mm-hmm. Like, it's going to ruin movies. Yeah. And that obviously never happened.
Mm-hmm. If anything, you're seeing a resurgence of like analog things now. And it's not just like hipsters. It's just something that people like, tactile things, or just being around other people and like sharing a common experience. Yeah. Yep. So one of my next ones was Rear Window. I can't talk. Rear Window by Hitchcock, starring my favorite Jimmy Stewart.
Jamie Stewart.
Is he James Stewart or Jimmy Stewart?
It depends on the era.
Yeah.
I think it depends on.
I want to call him Jimmy Stewart, but that sounds too familiar.
I don't know. Was he ever called Jimmy Stewart, like, in the credits of anything?
Probably not.
Or is that just what people call him?
James Stewart and Grace Kelly. It's about James Stewart has broken his leg, and he's kind of confined to his apartment. And then he's just kind of like spying on people around him. So, and then he witnesses some sketchy stuff going on in an apartment across the street. So it's just kind of a little mystery. So, how do you think loneliness would apply there? You remember much about it?
I kind of tuned out for like a third of that movie. Like, once...
I thought you were going to say you tuned out for like a third of what I was saying.
That too. But also, no, I remember watching... I remember starting the movie, and I remember it getting to a point to where she shows up, and I just completely lost interest.
It is. I remember it's one of those deals. So you didn't like it?
No, I liked it. When I tuned back in, I enjoyed it. It was just like it felt like there was 30 minutes of just like them talking about nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like this relationship that I don't even feel like played into the end of the movie at all.
Mm-hmm. A lot of old movies, you don't really know if they're going to get together until the last 3 minutes, and then they just kind of kiss.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that might have been one of those deals.
I don't know. I don't really have any criticism about it. I think I just lost interest and then regained interest. Like I'm not really criticizing like the movie. Because it could have been interesting, like what I missed, but I just happened to not pay attention at that time.
Right.
But I don't know what to say about it other than,
Mm-hmm.
his loneliness, his being alone just drove him to, spying on other people. I don't know what to say about that.
It is interesting that it drove him to observe things that other people wouldn't have seen.
Yeah.
Because he was stuck in his apartment. And then I think so this is more of a light discussion. I don't really have anything super impactful to say about it, but he does do that thing that like visibly old men would do in movies where they're like, I'm a young man, Grace Kelly. I don't want to settle down and have no kids yet.
Mm-hmm. It's like you look like you should have
Grand.
several full-grown kids at this point.
Yeah. But then she woos him with her extravagant dresses.
Mm.
And so that was my third. And what's next on your list?
We need to move it along because we're at like 46 minutes. So I don't know how much patience the people that are listening to us are going to have. I guess we'll find out who our true fans are.
Only the real ones will listen to the end.
Anyway, I just had one more. We don't have to talk because I did want to go on to the guessing game part of it.
Yeah.
So there was this one I just kind of randomly thought of like at the last second. 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Mm. Oh yeah, that one's very lonely.
And that one, well, yeah, because I was trying to think of like, I couldn't really think of it as, or remember it as well as I Am Legend, because
Mm-hmm.
I've only seen this one once.
Mm-hmm. I
and-
Legend you watched in that phase of your life when you could just rewatch a movie.
Yeah, it was
Constantly.
my favorite. It was my favorite movie. Like as soon as I watched it, I Am Legend. We're getting sidetracked. I Am Legend is what got me into watching horror movies, actually.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to watch horror movies, and there's kind of like there's one scene in that movie that is like really puts you on edge,
Yeah.
and that sort of gave me the taste for it. But anyway, 10 Cloverfield Lane. I feel like I should say again that we're going to spoil this. If you haven't seen 10 Cloverfield Lane,
That one's interesting because
it's really good.
it's like, it's not physical isolation from other people.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a necessary mental isolation because she doesn't trust the people around her.
Well, and I was thinking less about the like all three of the characters together and more so about John Goodman,
Mm-hmm.
because again, yeah, stop listening if you haven't seen it. But what we find out is that the whole reason what we find out is that he basically, there is some sort of weird, like, vague apocalyptic thing happening, or we don't know that throughout the movie, like, because that's what he's telling them.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout the entire thing, to keep them in. Well, see, that's the thing. It keeps going back and forth. Like, we don't know if there's actually anything going on. If he's just trying to keep them in the bunker with him,
Mm-hmm.
or if we do find out that he did cause her car accident,
Yeah.
so that he could bring her into the bunker and like give that excuse and everything that she needs to stay in there. Which of course we do find out that there is an actual like event happening outside that they have to hide from, but we don't know that for most of the movie, and also that's not the reason that he brought them there in the first place.
Yeah.
Like, he brought them there because he was down there by himself, and he just wanted people
Yeah.
But he obviously had he
Done it
obviously
at the
had
right time.
he had some mental issues, obviously, that would that caused some trouble with that. So, but yeah, so
10 Cloverfield Lane.
10 Cloverfield Lane, it's a good one.
Yep.
And let's move on pretty quickly to. So this is just a list of movies I wanted to see. I wanted to ask you. These just randomly came up when I searched movies about loneliness, and I just wanted to see if you could guess why that was the case. Where's the loneliness in these movies?
Okay.
All right, so Lilo and Stitch.
I mean, her parents are dead.
Moving on.
Does it say?
That's also no. I didn't look up the answer. I just wanted to kind of see if we could figure out why did this come up?
Just speculate. Okay.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
just wanted to see if we could
Her
remember.
parents are dead. She's being ripped from her sister.
I was thinking more like it had to do with Stitch, probably.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's lonely because he's on Earth and that's not his home.
Yeah,
So.
and it's all about family.
Mm-hmm.
Ohana means family.
Family
And
means
he's kind
no
of
one
a
gets
freak.
left
He's kind of
behind.
a little freak in nature, so he probably feels alone in that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. What's the next one?
Bolt.
Bolt. Oh dear. Oh God, I don't remember that movie.
Yeah, these are getting harder. I had no clue what to get from this one.
I don't know. It's got Miley Cyrus.
Stop saying things about the movie and start saying relevant things about the movie.
Stop saying things about the movie and start saying things about the movie. I mean, God, what's even their mission in that movie?
He gets separated from.
There's a hamster and a ball.
Yeah, I really have no idea what this has to do with loneliness. So let's move on.
Yeah.
Moonrise Kingdom.
Oh, well see, I had on my list every Wes Anderson movie, because basically if you look at discussions about this, it's just every Wes Anderson movie is listed. Moonrise Kingdom would be just like any Wes Anderson movie. Everyone has a terrible relationship with everyone, except for the moments when they have a good one.
Mm-hmm.
A good moment. But I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that's under the surface in a Wes Anderson movie that he doesn't expand on. Like Frances McDormand is like having an affair with Bruce Willis.
She just
I made a bald motion.
he just mimicked having no hair.
Yeah. She's having an affair with Bruce Willis, and her husband Bill Murray is just, yeah, everyone's having a hard time like they are in any Wes Anderson movie. And then their children have run away from home. So it's just a general, I think it's not loneliness so much as in any Wes Anderson movie there's always a sense of like alienation or something.
It's probably in that scene between the boy and Bruce Willis in the camper.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's the scene to where they kind of like stop to breathe and like.
He presents himself as like a father figure.
Yeah, like let's get to that's like the let's get to the heart of this movie scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Wes Anderson does. He does a lot of crazy, like, I guess superfluous things. Like people would accuse him of being overly cute or like not very substantial, I guess. But then he typically does like have like a calm in the like where all the disorganized parts kind of come together.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of gives his intention for the movie, or the heart of the movie. But yeah, anyway, that one was more expanded on. But what's another one?
I wasn't sure if that. So you mentioned Nightcrawler to me,
Mm-hmm.
Which I can't remember. I mean, I can remember a lot about the movie. I just can't think of like. I just don't know that I have much to say about that theme in particular on it, other than the fact that he's
very unstable.
He's a psychopath.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the whole point of it. And yeah, I mean, other than I just can't really think.
It's kind of like a weird psychopathic version of The Apartment, because he is trying to capitalize, like he's trying to advance his career through really seedy means.
Well, yeah, it's not really like loneliness, like he's dealing with loneliness, because he doesn't care.
Well, it's all at night, which is pretty isolating.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of films that deal with loneliness do take place at night, like Taxi Driver. Or that one is kind of like isolation, insomnia, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Which insomnia is very isolating. But not to get off topic with Nightcrawler.
Yeah. I don't want to spend too long on that because I can't really think much about it.
Yeah.
But this last one was for you specifically because I knew you would love this. Where the Wild Things Are.
I saw that and I hate that movie.
I know you do.
I hate it. It was creepy. I remember my experience when I was younger with like independent film was just, it would subvert my expectations and it made me very uncomfortable when that happened. Mm-hmm. And so I was also very sleepy when we watched it, and so it was like some kind of weird trip. And there was like, they were around the campfire and they're ripping off their arms and there's like weird camera angles, and it's probably not as weird if I watched it now.
I think it would be better if we watched it now.
Yeah, I remember, anytime, I remember watching Fantastic Mr. Fox after it came out, and like the first time I watched it being like, I actually liked it, but I was very unsettled. Mm-hmm. So, and then...
Well, it's an animated movie that sort of like verges on...
It has a lot of adult themes, yeah.
Yeah, so...
And then Where the Wild Things Are was just rented for us, I think. And then I think when I was a little older, we watched Hannah. And that was kind of... Okay,
let's not get off on...
we're getting off topic. But anyway, yeah. Where the Wild Things Are.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There were 3 movies by this director on the list that I found. I can't remember. Oh, it was Her. He directed the movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix.
Okay, so he is a weird dude.
Apparently he just likes making movies about this topic. But that was another thing I noticed was there were 3 different movies with Joaquin Phoenix in them that I noticed too. Like it was Joker, Her, and something else. Mm-hmm. I can't remember, but that's just besides the point. I just noticed that Joaquin Phoenix was turning up a lot.
Yep.
Anyway.
All right.
That's all I got.
Is that a wrap?
Maybe so. All right.
So the plan was to do...
Moving on to our mail segment.
We have a mail segment? What?
Yes. One of these days we'll have some mail. All right, let's check the mailbox. No mail yet. Send in your mail. All right.
Do we have an address for that?
I don't know.
We'll have to insert something.
Let's see. I think the email is againsttypereviews@gmail.com. You can comment on the video or comment on Instagram or whatever, Facebook, whatever. I'm sure there's multiple different ways that I could... I mean, at this point, I'll take anything I can get. So just send us some mail. Let us know what...
Send us your prayers that will get organized.
Yeah.
So, what I was going to say... Our plan was to do more, I'm not sure how many we'll do at this point, but at least a couple more on a theme. So maybe you could send that in to Zach.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
what are some themes?
He's kind of the mod for all the social medias.
What are some themes, like emotional themes, like loneliness, just in general, that you would like us to explore in movies?
Yep.
Let us know. We're going to do that, and we're also just going to just kind of do whatever we want with this.
Yep.
We don't want it to be anything in particular. We want to structure it a little more, but we don't necessarily have like we're not getting too specific yet. We just kind of want to have fun with it and talk about
We
movies.
are beholden to no man.
Nope, no sponsors, no producers.
No
I guess
money.
I'm the producer. No, no nothing.
No income.
No income, definitely not for this.
No.
Anyway.
We could put in a lot of, we could use that to our freedom. Put in a lot of like music that would get us demonetized.
All right, if we end it in the next 15 seconds, we'll be under an hour.
Okay, go.
So thank you guys for listening or watching wherever this is. Please like, comment, and subscribe. You can find us on Instagram at Against Type Reviews or on Facebook at Against Type Reviews. No Twitter, unfortunately. But, yep, you can find us there.
Until next time.
I think that's it. Yep. All right. Until next time, stay lonely. And we'll see you again. If you feel lonely, come and listen to us.
Yep.
All right. Thank you guys.
Bye.
Bye.